Giving Bloober Team, a studio with a fairly uneven track record, a chance to remake objectively one of the greatest horror games of all time sounds like a recipe for failure. Going even farther, it's also a very high-stakes proposition and one that could have potentially tarnished the legacy of Silent Hill 2. Defying the odds, not only does Bloober Team not screw up Silent Hill 2, but somehow they have also made one of the greatest horror games of all time even better by focusing on three key aspects. Silent Hill 2 Remake succeeds because it allows you to have your cake and eat it too. The core structure of the 2001 entry remains in place with key plot points and elements intact, but it's between these moments where Bloober Team spreads their wings. All three major ways that Silent Hill 2 Remake improves on the original are all driving towards the same goal, which is to increase immersion, which is ultimately where it overtakes the original. The voice acting and dialogue, the visuals, and the audio. You play as everyman James, who is trying to find his wife, who has been deceased for 3 years, but somehow sent him a note telling him to come to Silent Hill. That's truly all you need to know about Silent Hill 2, and the less you know, the better. The new character design of James feels more relatable, voice acting has been drastically improved across the board, the dialogue has been tweaked to provide a more authentic feel of an actual conversation, and the game is littered with clues about what's really going on, but it still respects the player's intelligence to piece everything together by yourself. All of this allows you to be more in sync and immersed with the experience that James is having. This terror doesn't come from cheap jump scares, but from slow burning tension that is persistent and oppressive. There are still jump scares, but their use is so rare that it elevates the whole experience as you dread what is around every corner. On a visual level, the game looks drastically better than the original, which is a given, but it's things like lighting and cinematography that deserve a very special mention. The camera is brought in much closer to James this time around, and this leads to a more intimate experience as you are going through what James is going through. Finally, the audio is a masterwork, which in this case is aided by the DualSense. The static that comes through the controller constantly sends shivers down your spine. Nothing else comes through the DualSense speaker, and this is a perfect case of less is more. The score is constantly droning, never allowing you to become at ease, and knows when to ratchet up the tension. And there's also environmental sounds that are full of disturbing noises, some that are only to be heard once and never again. Despite drastically modernizing Silent Hill 2, there are still some archaic remnants of days past that feel more frustrating and less nostalgic. Needing to be exactly on an item to pick it up, or even more frustrating, like the inability to walk over small items like curbs. Drawers and cabinets open by themselves as they used to in games without any character movement. When Bloober Team did such a good job of modernizing Silent Hill 2, it shines a light on these elements that could have been improved. There was the occasional visual glitch as well, which would mostly happen when you would climb through a window or crawl through a tight space. However, on a more problematic note, there were a handful of occurrences during the game that the character would somehow get stuck in the geometry of the world. Sometimes it was a car or a generator that would trap James from escaping. Luckily, every time, we were able to spam buttons like dodge, aim, and move to wiggle out, but if not, it would have required a checkpoint restart, which at times can be very few and far between. As much as Silent Hill 2 altered the horror genre back in 2001, the remake stands to change the landscape just as much again today. It's a very stark reminder to everyone that horror isn't just cheap thrills and hiding in closets. There is much more to it, as it can tap into deeper emotions and tackle difficult subjects. Silent Hill 2 is disturbing on many levels, but you never want to look away, and it stays with you long after you put down the controller. Maybe timing wasn't right, but I never felt hooked to go back and rent Silent Hill 2 for a second time back in 2001. However, Silent Hill 2 Remake is one of the greatest horror games that I've ever played. Before leaving, consider subscribing if you learned anything new from the video or enjoyed the vibes. If you're unfamiliar, we're trying to cultivate a community full of positivity that's free from toxicity and negativity. That's everything for today, but until next time, be good to your fellow gamer, but be better to your fellow human.